Africa, where the human race began. Nearly 1 billion people live here. And it's a continent with an incredible diversity of communities and cultures. Yet we know less of its history than almost anywhere else on Earth. But that's beginning to change. In the last few decades, researchers and archaeologists have begun to uncover a range of histories as impressive and extraordinary as anywhere else on Earth. It's a history which has been neglected for years, and it's largely without written records. But it is preserved for us in the gold and statues, in the culture, art, and legends of the people. My name is Gus Casely Hayford. Over many years, I've studied the history and culture of Africa. As an art historian, I'm used to drawing stories from mute objects from the past. I'm going to discover the history and find out what really happened to the lost kingdoms of Africa. In 1871, a German geologist exploring southern Africa stumbled across these extraordinary ruins. He was astonished by what he found. A vast stone city, stranded in the empty savannah, Great Zimbabwe. He had no idea who was responsible for this astounding feat of architecture. But he was sure of one thing: it was too sophisticated to have been built by Africans. Thankfully, these assumptions have been discredited today. But only now are we piecing together the fragments we know about this lost civilization and its connections to other kingdoms of pre-colonial southern Africa. Could Great Zimbabwe really have been an African El Dorado, a city built on gold? In this film, I'm going in search of the story of one of the most mysterious cities and societies in Africa. I don't think we can understand this kingdom without understanding the civilizations and kingdoms that grew up around it. It was part of a rich and fascinating history, largely unknown, the history of wealth, trade, and gold. My journey to find out about Great Zimbabwe would take me from the Swahili coast in modern-day Tanzania to Mozambique, South Africa, and hopefully to modern Zimbabwe itself, where no BBC crew has been allowed to film for 8 years. My first stop is right here at the edge of the continent, where Africa meets the Indian Ocean. This is the ancient Swahili coast. For centuries, people have been drawn here from as far away as China, India, and the Middle East. And they've been drawn here by trade. Trade in goods, but particularly trade in gold. For many years, Western scholars paid little attention to the history of this coast. They didn't think it fitted into the wider trade patterns of the ancient world, to Arabia in the north and India in the east. But recent research now suggests that this coast was central to an international trade in gold. Gold which originated in Great Zimbabwe, 1,500 kilometers inland. And I think this ancient trade route may lead to a better understanding of what Great Zimbabwe actually represents in the untold history of this continent. There's evidence to suggest that traders were already coming to this coast from far afield, as long ago as the 1st century AD. I've got my holiday reading with me, which is, well, it's a bit more than holiday reading. This is the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, which is a 1st century guide to the Indian Ocean. It talks about all the sorts of wonderful places that merchants and sailors could have travelled in that time to ply their trade. And it talks about this place called Rapta, which is supposed to be the most southerly port in Africa that you could then travel to. The Periplus is an ancient Greek text which describes the ports and cities which dot this coast all the way to Arabia. According to the Periplus, Rapta was the place where traders from India and Arabia came to buy ivory, fine tortoiseshell and rhinoceros horn. In return, the people of Rapta imported spears, daggers and glass. But unfortunately, the Periplus is vague on the exact whereabouts of Rapta, and the stories of this trading city have been dismissed as legend. Now, however, Professor Felix Charmi of the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania thinks he might have found it. Are you Felix?
How are you, man?
Hey! Hi, I've heard a lot about you. I've been reading my Periplus in preparation for this.
Good, man.
Well, I know you're the man to show me around.
You're welcome.
I mean, the legendary Rapta. I mean, if you found it, this is quite something, so I'm expecting a lot. Felix Charmi is a world-renowned archaeologist whose work has been instrumental in piecing together the ancient history of the Swahili coast. If he has indeed found Rapta, this will rank as his greatest discovery yet. It will also prove that this region was a vibrant part of the ancient world. Did you see a crocodile? Seriously?
Yeah. Oh, that's huyu bwana mpiga picha mzunguke huyo, mzunguke.
It's a lizard, isn't it? Monitor lizard.
Monitor lizard.
It's just amazing. Felix and I are on the Rufiji River, which flows to the Indian Ocean from deep within the African interior. You managed to do it and not get any mud on your shoes?
Yeah. The other side was better, I told you.
Felix believes that Rapta once stood near the banks of this river. But Felix's idea of Nia is a little different from mine.
It's also dangerous. You can see there are snakes here.
There are snakes.
And when you are
a big fan of snakes, Felix.
The kind of snakes? All sorts. Pythons.
Pythons?
Pythons, yes.
The Periplus talks of Rapta as a great trading centre, a cosmopolitan metropolis where traders from all over the ancient world would meet and barter and try to make a quick buck. But it's difficult to imagine such a vibrant place existing here, in this riverside wilderness, with crocodiles and snakes. I'm beginning to wonder if the charming Felix Charmi has made a mistake. Then, 1 hour later, in the dirt beneath our feet, fragments of an ancient world emerge.
This is the beginning of what I call Rapta site. And actually, if you look down, there are pottery of 2,000 years. Probably it's been brought down from the settlement. And if you again you move and see the ground, yes, you can see, for example, you can see this one. This is a piece of pottery. For sure, it is 2,000 years old.
Once you get your eye in, they're everywhere, aren't they?
Yeah, and actually, if you are able to clean this ground, you'll see more. You can see like there's another piece there.
Yes.
And when we go up, I'll show you more.
Buried beneath the dirt and foliage of this isolated wilderness, Felix thinks he's found something remarkable. Shards of pottery, tantalizing evidence of an ancient settlement. So somewhere under here may well be the remains of Rapta.
Exactly.
Felix thinks he's found Rapta because of the age and variety of the pottery which lies hidden beneath the surface.
I promise you that I'll show you some potsheds. They are 2,000 years old.
2,000 years old.
Actually, carbon-14 dating for this material is giving us a date of 200 to about 300 AD. So 200 AD is a common date here for this kind of pottery.
Are these imported or are they made?
No, they are local.
They're local?
They are local, yes.
Have you found pottery that has come from beyond these shores, beyond?
Yes, we have found good amount of ceramics which are brought from different parts of the world. This pottery from Egypt was examined by a professor in Sweden, and he confirmed this pottery is from the Nile Valley. You can see the texture of it.
It's incredibly fine and light, isn't
Exactly, exactly. You can even see the color of it, the pinkish color of
Yes.
it. No?
It feels like we're in the middle of nowhere, but the evidence from the pottery, its age, its varied provenance, and the sheer amount of shards suggests that Felix might be right. That in this empty place, a trading centre once thrived, playing host to merchants from as far afield as ancient Egypt and India. Evidence that, from the earliest of times, this part of Africa had established trade routes with the wider world. Talking to Felix, I mean, he's opened up a whole raft of possibilities of where to explore next. But more than anything, it's this idea that this was the hub of a whole network of ports that ran down this bit of the coast. According to the Periplus, Rapta traded in goods from the African interior, like ivory and rhinoceros horn. But there's no sign yet of the trade in gold which I'm looking for. But as I head back into town the next morning, toward the markets that bustle here today, I can hear the evidence of a legacy of trade, exchange, and contact with a world beyond this coast in the language that people speak. Swahili is an African language, but one which has incorporated many words from around the world, like a linguistic melting pot. The word Swahili itself actually comes from the Arabic word for coast, and there are traces of Indian and even Portuguese too. In fact, Portuguese traders first seems to have collapsed. We don't know why. And there is much more we don't know about the life of the people here, like how power was handed down or what they believed in. But archaeologists now think that the people of Mapungubwe may have travelled north to found an even bigger, more impressive kingdom, Great Zimbabwe. Good news! We've finally been granted permission to film in Great Zimbabwe, the greatest lost kingdom of southern Africa. I'm not going to pretend it's been easy getting permission to film in Zimbabwe. It's taken months of applications, persuasion, and at last it looks like we've got permission. But nothing is certain in Zimbabwe these days. Even with our permissions, there's still a border to cross. It took 4 hours, but eventually I'm in. A 16th century Portuguese captain described Great Zimbabwe as an almost mythical city. Among the gold mines of the inland plains is a fortress built of stones of marvellous size, and there appears to be no mortar joining them. Great Zimbabwe was Africa's El Dorado, a place of myth and mystery. I'm meeting Zimbabwean archaeologist Edward Matenga, former curator of the entire site. Edward. Hello. Hello. It's Gus. Lovely to meet you. He tells me the ruins are so important to the people here that I must have the blessing of one of the site's spiritual guardians, Ambua Vazirira, before I can get in.
Gus, what Ambua is saying is that you are welcome to Great Zimbabwe is an honorable guest. So now we are going to take you to the sacred entrance to the site.
Thank you. It's been a beautiful welcome. As well as curating this site, Edward Matenga has written extensively about Great Zimbabwe. He is recognized as one of the world's foremost authorities on this mysterious place.
before, say, 1890,
Yes.
this place was out of bounds to,
Really?
to strangers.
Yes.
You are not a stranger anymore because you have now been accepted.
Well, I feel very honored.
So basically, people would have to be initiated, as it were, and part of the initiation is passing through the entrance.
I see.
Where the custodian, the spiritual sort of head of the place,
Yes.
opens the site for
I
people to
see.
come in.
I see. So she is the key to the site.
Yes, she's the key. In her sort of responsibility, she has to open the entrance.
The entrance.
Yeah,
So
she is.
traditionally, you'd have to stop here.
You have to stop here.
Hey, Ramatorefu, Izarura Muzariri.
Ambua is one of several people who claim to be the spiritual guardians of this site. It certainly is an impressive performance.
She's saying that now you can enter the site.
We can enter the site.
Yeah. Okay.
Gorene gore, Sanganane Zimwe, Gorene gore. Oiwe, Gorene gore.
This is the great gold kingdom of Great Zimbabwe. For 200 years, the rulers of this place controlled a massive empire between the Zambezi and Limpopo rivers, covering much of modern-day Zimbabwe and part of Mozambique. This was their capital, their palace, and their bastion.
This is the cradle of a lot of people who live in this region. The descendants of people who used to live here are now found in South Africa, in Botswana,
Yes.
in other countries.
From the 13th century to the 15th, these people controlled the gold mines of the plateau. Here in stone is their expression of that wealth and power. Walls that soar out of the earth, that curve and flow around the contours of the ground, creating narrow passageways and forbidding enclosures. This is a stunning feat of architecture. There is nothing gluing these walls together, just an extraordinary precision and craft.
This is the highest wall at the Great Zimbabwe at 11 meters. It is 6 meters wide at the bottom. It is estimated that about more than 1 million bricks are pegged into this wall.
At its height, this place was a medieval city, home to 25,000 people, seemingly divided into social groups.
Right now we are on the summit of the Zimbabwe Hill. This is called the Zimbabwe Hill Complex. There are 3 sort of areas of making up the site. We have the Hill Complex, we have the Valley Ruins, of which the largest building, the Great Enclosure, is located there. And then beyond the stone walls, and least obvious, of course, to many visitors, is the fact that there were a lot of housing units, dense housing units that were located outside the enclosures and over an area of about 720 hectares.
The subjects and their king seem to have lived very separate lives. It's likely that Great Zimbabwe's immense stone walls ensured that the rich, religious, and the powerful were kept separate from everyone else.
Yes, the site in many ways is a matrix of passages.
Yes.
And the way they build so many passages is anybody's guess. But I want to believe that it might have something to do with social protocols.
Yes.
That the idea basically was to control the traffic of people.
I see.
Some people were not supposed to be seen in certain places.
Yes.
So they would have to follow designated passages. So there might have been various passages for sort of various levels of, in terms of social organization of the community.
Yes.
That, okay, the kings or the royal wives, they would follow these passages. And then, of course, the plebeians, the lower sort of rank, would follow these passages.
But for decades, the significance of this place, what it meant, who built it, has been fiercely debated. The British, who ran this part of the world in the late 19th century, believed that a non-African people must have built this kingdom. Speculation as to who that might have been has ranged from the Phoenicians to the Queen of Sheba. When this country was run by its white minority, the idea that anyone but Africans built this city was actively and enthusiastically promoted. But carbon dating technology has ruled out ancient foreign civilizations as being responsible for Great Zimbabwe. There's no evidence in this architecture to suggest that this place was built by anyone other than those who came from here. And the evidence from earlier settlements, like Mapungubwe, shows a continuity of southern African culture. The settled view now is, Great Zimbabwe was built by Africans. Archaeologists are also sure that this place was a rich trading kingdom. A wealth of trading goods, beads, bracelets, porcelain and glass from China and the Middle East have been found here, along with gold, mined only 40 kilometers away.
Gold was obviously very important, and we know there was traffic between this place, or the southern African hinterland, and the East African coast, linking with China, with India, with the Middle East. Yes. And that was one factor that might have caused people to become wealthy and build these structures as an expression of that wealth.
One artifact in particular shows the links between Great Zimbabwe and the wider world. It's a 14th century copper coin like this one from Kilwa Kisiwani, the great trading city on the coast. A place which derived its wealth by selling on the gold from Great Zimbabwe to the rest of the world. Two ends, the same trading route. There's still so much that we don't know about Great Zimbabwe, the nature of its king or kings, the full meaning of its narrow passageways and forbidding architecture. But we do know that this vast city was one of Africa's richest and most sophisticated kingdoms, and the starting point of a gigantic trading network that stretched from these high plateaux across southern Africa to the Swahili coast and across the globe to Arabia, India and China. And when Great Zimbabwe went into decline in the 15th century, so too did Kilwa, two kingdoms connected by gold and forgotten by historians for centuries. Today, the ruins of Great Zimbabwe have given their name to a modern African country. They are a reminder that although ancient kingdoms can be forgotten, they are rarely truly lost. This remarkable kingdom, high in the Zimbabwe highlands, is an emblem of a continent remembering its past. I began this journey some distance from here on the Swahili coast, thinking that this was a journey about trade, about gold. But it's been about more than that. It's been about recovering an African past from the ruins of lost civilizations. There's still much we don't know about this history and these lost kingdoms. But here in Africa, their memory is still celebrated, and rightly so. The past is still very much alive here. It's still a living, breathing part of people's lives, their culture,